Namaste and welcome to the audience in this brand new episode of our program Guest in Town, Atithi Devo Bhava. It's me, your host, Rohan Shrestha, and today we are going to focus on the development of our country. For this, we have the CEO of Practical Action, Paul Smith, Lomas. Let me welcome him. Welcome, sir. Welcome to Nepal. Welcome to Himalaya Television.
Thank you very much. Very nice to be here.
So, is this the first time in Nepal or...?
No, I've been here about 4 times now in Nepal.
Okay. So last time, when did you come to Nepal?
It's about 3 years ago. The way I think of it is before the earthquake. Yes. So.
Earthquake has become the time mark in Nepal.
Yes.
Right? So what did you see what did you observe the condition then and now?
So really, my visit this time has not focused on any of the earthquake affected areas. We're an organisation that focuses on long-term development. And although we have done some work in response to the earthquake, my focus this time has been in looking at the Karnali River Basin on our work on improving disaster risk reduction and early warning systems for people affected by the threat of floods.
Do you want to share something on this visit, since you went to Karnali to see the project, isn't it?
Yes.
So what is the condition now after the implementation of those projects?
So we've been working in early warning systems for a number of years now and have developed some very, very appropriate technology to help people to have good advance notice when there is a threat that heavy rains will turn into floods that threatens their livelihoods, their lives, might threaten their assets. And through working with Department of Hydrogeology, working with satellite forecasting stations, working with the telecoms companies, and really working to understand the needs of people living on the ground, we've developed something that gives people, instead of having perhaps 10 minutes of early warning, now they get 6-7 hours of early warning to know that there's a threat of flood. And that can make such a huge difference to how people are able to prepare and respond when the rains threaten.
When was this project implemented in Karnali Basin?
So we've really been working for a very long time. So it goes back almost 15 years from the very early conversations. But now we've reached a stage where we know that we've got a technology and we know we have solutions. So last year's rains, which were particularly bad in some river basins, the telecoms companies sent 11 million warning texts free of charge to everybody who was threatened by the floods. And that made such a difference because people had 6 hours advance notice of a threat of a flood. So we've got a system now that doesn't rely on practical actions activities. It's really embraced by local government, Department of Hydrogeology, telecoms companies. We think this can be applied not just to Karnali river basins, but other river basins across the whole of the country.
Which rivers that you are going to focus on?
I'm afraid I'm not best placed to give you the geography of the country, but a number of river basins across the country where that same technology can be used with satellites, with river monitoring systems, with SMS links to telecoms companies.
I want you to highlight something on the doings of Practical Action globally.
Well, we're a technology organisation, I guess. Perhaps that came through from the story of the early warning systems. We believe that technology has got the capability to improve people's lives, but it's about finding the right technology and finding the right actors to make that technology come to life for people who have a real need. And we focus on a few areas, so access to energy, disaster risk reduction, agriculture, and water and sanitation. Those are those 4 areas of technology development and how they can improve people's lives.
It's been around how many years in Nepal that Practical Action has been working? From 1979, isn't it?
1979
to the recent days.
To today.
What are the doings of Practical Action in Nepal?
Well, we work on a number of those core areas, and I guess one of the 4 areas. We were just celebrating some of our work on energy access just yesterday with the launching of our Poor Person's Energy Outlook 2017 edition, and marking something I think was quite remarkable of our work in Nepal. So back in the 1970s, one of the technologies that we helped to develop and demonstrate and build the capabilities of was micro hydroelectricity generation. and small grid systems for electricity for people living in remote rural areas. Something that we're very proud of, having developed and tested the technology. Now AEPC, who were also at the launch of our report yesterday, were telling how they were the ones
Poor
now,
People's Energy Outlook, isn't it?
Poor Person's Energy Outlook report. So the government department responsible for alternative energy promotion, they are the ones now who have embraced that technology, and they talk of hundreds, if not thousands, of micro-hydro generating stations that are now being developed in Nepal, following the ideas and the demonstrations that we developed back in the 1970s and 1980s. So that story of technology development, capturing and sharing learning, and then passing on with other local relevant actors,
bodies,
I guess
right.
would be the sort of story that we like to tell about much of our work.
How has this helped to the grassroots people in Nepal?
Well, access to electricity is such a
Access
key.
to electricity, similarly, there are so many projects that it has been working on, right?
Yes.
How those projects that implemented by practical action has benefited the local, the grassroots of Nepal or the Nepali community?
Well, so my own personal meetings in the Kanale River Basin just this week, I met women who had, as a consequence of the early warning systems, they'd had those 6 hours of notice,
Right.
but also we'd supported their ability to find alternative sources of income. So a woman who was now growing and selling mushrooms as a new technology that had never been there before, or small-scale irrigation mechanisms. So a whole range of ways in which communities have benefited from the work that we've done. Now globally, last year, we reached nearly 2 million people through our own direct work. But I think more exciting is that when we've captured and shared those stories of success with other organisations, the number is multiplied tenfold and more. That's the kind of impact that we see practical action contributing here in Nepal. And it's not just about a handout, but it's about establishing something which has long-term sustainable benefit, not just for today, but also for the future.
What kind of sustainable benefit that the people can...
Another work that we're doing in agriculture, for example, helping people living in remote rural areas to improve their farming productivity, so small-scale farmers. We've introduced in Bajang area, sorry.
Bajang Bazura, right.
To support them to introduce small-scale irrigation techniques, low-cost irrigation, by working with what we call barefoot agro-vets, helping to introduce new techniques and new technologies to get access to vaccines, to improve seeds, and at the same time, a way for them to be able to share, to sell their produce to access to markets.
How difficult is it to convince the people to adopt such kind of technology? Because it is quite difficult, isn't it? To make the people...
So it takes time. You can't walk in and say, here we are, we have the solution. Sometimes we find in conversations with communities that they're the ones who have the solutions. Our work in neighbouring country in Bangladesh, we've worked for a number of years now with a work which is supporting agricultural production in sand areas, in river basins, which had traditionally laid bare. But one farmer introduced us to an old technology that had been developed where you can turn barren land into productive land by a special technique of adding a small amount of organic fertilizer. When the river floods and the water recedes, then you can plant and grow pumpkins. Now that wasn't our new technology, that was an old traditional technology. Right. So sometimes it's about finding those technologies and bringing them back to life.
Technology for development. What is your analysis on it?
I think there's an enormous possibility for technology to make a real difference on people's lives. And the world right now is, I think, captured by the possibilities of technology. We all talk about, we have our smartphones, we have our apps, we have digital technologies, and those things offer real potential. But sometimes I think we also need to ask ourselves, how can these technologies really make a difference to the lives of people who perhaps aren't quite as connected and digital as perhaps you were.
Right, that is the main challenge, isn't it? If we see in the Nepalese backdrop as well, we are not the developed country. We are in the pace of development, and lots of people are illiterate in Nepal. Similarly, with the economic condition is quite low. Don't you think that the technological transformation is a bit difficult to adopt it by the people in Nepal?
Well, the challenge, the question is to find where are people right now? What are their needs?
So where are people right now?
And what are their capabilities?
Where are people right now?
Well, and people right now are living, obviously there's all sorts of challenges associated with migration, but people have real capabilities. And through our experiences, we know that working with them, but not for them and not giving them things, but working with them and helping them to connect with private sector, helping them to link with local government, and helping them by bringing some simple technologies, perhaps even some advanced technologies. We know that through those explorations and those conversations, we can make a real positive difference to people's lives. That's the story, I think, of practical action.
So do you think that the stakeholders in Nepal are quite positive towards this?
All of my engagements that I've been in Nepal...
Because ultimately, we have to work with the grassroots, or we have to work with the local level, we have to work with the local planners, isn't it? Are they much enough, or are they much committed towards introducing such kind of technologies, or making people aware about adopting that kind of technologies?
I think if we were to fly in with a helicopter and a smartphone and throw them on the ground and say, there you are, there's your solution, I think the answer would be no. But I think the approach that we take, nearly all of the staff who work with practical action are national Nepalese. The local partners we work with are often from the local area that we work with. And that engagement takes time, but through that engagement, then I think you open the door to all sorts of positive possibilities. And our experiences have always been positive in Nepal. I think it's important to say that not everything is a success. So the work that we've worked on over the number of years in early warning systems, some of our early attempts were not successful. And so the very early stages in early warning systems, we helped to build high platforms and loud hailers, so people could stand and watch for the water. But we realized quite quickly that the amount of time available for the early warning was too short. So we had to learn from that and adapt and try again. And that process of learning is an important part of development.
Besides this early warning system, do you want to add some more example that how the projects implemented by Practical Action has been effectively working on this grassroots people in Nepal?
So I think one of the most exciting things that we're doing at the moment is our work with
Let's focus something on this agriculture.
Yeah, small-scale farmers. So introducing new techniques like simple drip irrigation, low-cost irrigation, improved seeds, and improved veterinary practices and access to vaccines. Now that's all being enabled because we've helped to train a cadre of trained agro-vets, we're calling them. And now they have access to district towns, they have access to supplies and materials, and they have access to knowledge which they can share with farmers. And we've seen over the last few years working in this area that we've improved productivity fantastically. But at the same time, we've also helped people to sell their produce in markets.
Yeah, now connectivity.
So connecting, that physical connection. Now, that I've visited some of the remote parts of Nepal, and I know how steep some of the pathways are and that roads aren't always available. And we've developed a really simple piece of technology which we call the gravity goods ropeway. So almost like a ropeway that allows people to take their produce from the mountainside without the need for electricity to allow gravity to carry it down to a roadway, so that then from a roadway produce can be taken off to a market. And that can be absolutely transformative for people. Instead of spending 4, 5, 6 hours carrying a heavy bag of tomatoes down a very steep and tortuous path, and wasting a day, that same bag of 50 kilograms of tomatoes
Within a minute.
Right. Is at the roadhead. And I've seen some of these roadhead centres, they become a marketplace.
On the backdrop of the socio-economic and political situation of Nepal, how difficult is it to work in Nepal, since it's from 1979 to these days, right, of this 2018? So how difficult is it to work in Nepal?
Well, logistically, Nepal obviously offers challenges with remote areas, and some of the villages that we work in, they are days of travel and walking.
Bajang, Bajura, right?
They're all very difficult places to get to, and I personally walked up some of the steep mountain passes, so that's a real challenge. And I think, like many working in many remote areas, coordination with key actors also is both important, but also challenging. So again, the early warning systems, where it was so important to make sure local communities, local government and private sector actors all understood each other's roles and working together. The new constitution, I think, offers fantastic opportunity to really, for local government, to create that strong connection with local communities, and that's a fantastic opportunity. I guess everybody can see that there will be some challenges as we adopt to those new entities and build new sets of relationships. So a challenge, but I think also a positive opportunity.
Besides this, since Nepal is moving towards the new dimension, the new discourse has been implemented in Nepal regarding the development. What is your opinion regarding the development of Nepal? What kind of challenges that Nepal is facing? What kind of challenges that Nepal will face in this federal state, right, which need to be sought out?
Well, I guess if you think of some of the big global challenges and some of the things that we were raising yesterday at our Poor Person's Energy Outlook report launch, was that often when you're looking at, for example, basic infrastructure like energy, that many of the ways government, many of the ways that funding institutions like the World Bank or Asian Development Bank work, they think very much from the macro scale. They look at big, large, national construction systems. But when you actually look at the ways that many people are really going to solve their local problems, often that requires local solutions developed locally. So financing needs to be oriented and created in a different way. How do you bring those large funding institutions to engage with smaller scale entities? And I think local government, I suspect, is going to have a challenge. How does it mobilize the funds, whether it be from the private sector, from local lending institutions, or access to central government funding? So I think that will be a challenge alongside their capacities to be able to develop an appropriate, again thinking of energy, an appropriate local energy plan. That will take time.
What might be the opportunities for this in Nepal?
The real opportunity now is that we have the possibilities of true bottom-up planning, true connections between government plans, government resourcing, and what people really need. So that I see that as a really positive opportunity.
In today's context, Ethiopia is moving a bit forward than Nepal. But Nepal still is in the similar situation. What can we learn from Ethiopia?
That's a good question. I definitely think that Ethiopia focused on small-scale farmers as a backbone for the economy, and helping farmers to get access to knowledge, to technology, and also access to markets. I think logistically, I think Ethiopia probably has the ability to build roads possibly more quickly, so the logistics are possibly easier in Ethiopia.
So the foremost thing is Nepal to have to focus on the agriculture, similarly the transportation.
I think agriculture...
For the quick economic development, isn't it?
I think small scale, if you think of the number of people, number of small scale, number of farmers in this country, I think it constitutes one of the key backbones of the whole of the economy. And get that to work in a positive way, I think, unlocks a massive potential for the nation, yeah.
It's been very long, as we said, that practical action has been working for Nepal, for the development of Nepal. Similarly, there are many other donor agencies which has been working for the development, for the prosperity of Nepal, but still we have not been able to attain the goal of economic development, attain the goal of social development. What might be the reason behind this?
I think there are lots of challenges in a country like Nepal. That, you know, the climate isn't always as good as it might be, as we talked about earlier. Conflict has obviously been something that has held economic development back. The earthquake in the last couple of years was clearly a hiccup, if you like, in the development path. But I look at Nepal in a very positive light. I see positive progress. The global social inclusive indicator in Nepal, which is a very, very high indicator, which is a really positive story against other countries in the region, because inequality is really, getting inequality low is a really important path for development, and I think there's something really positive to celebrate.
Any future plan of practical action that you want to mention?
We will continue to work on improving people's access to energy, improving and honing our early warning systems, and looking how we can use our knowledge about forecasting to improve agricultural productivity. We will continue to work with small-scale farmers and helping them to improve their productivity and improve their ability to sell their produce.
We heard that practical action was recently awarded with this Jayat Future Energy Prize, isn't it?
Yes, that's right.
Tell us something about that. First of all, we would like to congratulate you for this.
Thank you very much. So we were very proud. That was a prestigious international prize. And really that was built on some of the success that we've worked on in energy systems here in Nepal and other parts of the world across Asia, Africa and Latin America, helping remote rural communities get access to electricity through simple off-grid renewable energy micro-hydro stations, solar systems, but making sure always that those systems run in the long term, that communities have a way of maintaining and running the systems in the future, that the stories are shared and captured with policymakers, with other practitioners. So that story of demonstrating, capturing learning, and then inspiring others to take a similar path, I guess is why we were celebrated by the Al Zayed Future Energy Prize. Such
a reputed award, and what does this mean to you?
The prestige is fantastic, a great boost for the morale of our staff and our partners, but also it stimulated an interest from a number of actors who perhaps may never have heard of us in the past. So we have a number of private sector companies who are now coming and saying, actually this is interesting, we like the story of renewable energy and we would like to replicate your work. Now I find that really exciting because we're only a small organisation. We don't have the strength of some of the big global corporate actors. And if we can get them to understand the impact that they can make, but also in a business sense, they make some kind of living for themselves, then I think we can look forward to a very positive future for people to have better access to energy around the world.
Well, thank you so much, sir, for your time and for your valuable opinions.
Thank you very much. Very nice to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks to you as well, the audience. Please do stay with us for more news and entertainment packages. Keep watching Himalaya Television. Namaste.